to kick it off with this story about the bioweapons labs in Ukraine that I found it so interesting. Oh yeah, by the way, people watching on Twitch, this is a wow. I could have sworn I set this up beforehand, but okay. This is going to be a an American Autopsy stream. It's going to be all politics. So just to give you guys a heads up over there. Here we go. Boom. So just to give you guys a heads up over there, just wanted to let you know. But let's go ahead and get into it. So Glenn Greenwald, and this is how I found out about this, but Glenn Greenwald tweeted this out. He said, Ukraine has biological research facilities, says Undersecretary Victoria Nuland. When asked by Senator Marco Rubio, who's a fucking warmonger as well, if Ukraine has biological or chemical weapons, and says she's worried Russia may get them. But she says 100% sure if there's a biological attack, it's Russia. So, of course, a lot of you know how I feel about the whole China hysteria when it came to COVID. Lo and behold, this is. I feel like this should let you know, that you probably shouldn't believe 100% the narrative that they say about the China lab leak. I'm not saying that it couldn't have happened, but what I'm saying is if we truly, because you notice how they're quiet about that now, right? The only person still talking about it, I think, is Rand Paul. Like he's still like raving about Fauci as he should rage about Fauci, but. He's really like I haven't heard too much talk about the lab leak theory because I feel like it doesn't run with their narratives. If they actually do an investigation, like I think it's a very likely chance we may find out that it did not come from China necessarily. But that's not me saying a definite. I'm not saying it either way. But what I'm saying is if we're going to do an investigation, let's not just do an investigation targeting the country that the United States probably hates the most right now. Even with all this Russia shit, I'm pretty sure the United States still hates China. But regardless, I just found that interesting, that biolabs, like they're creating biological weapons in Ukraine. Now, to those of you who think the name Victoria Nuland sounds familiar, it does. And here is why. Give me 1 second. So, Victoria Nuland, she got caught. She got caught basically handpicking Ukraine's government going forward. And this is the phone call that was out there. Check this out.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy. What he needs is Cleach and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them four times a week.
This is Victoria Nuland and another like official, American official. I don't know exactly who it is, but they're basically having a conversation about hand selecting Ukraine's government moving forward from the coup. This is in 2014 when the coup happened. That was led by the fucking Nazis.
I just think Cleach going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Okay.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy. What he needs is Cleach and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week. I just think Cleach going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Okay.
And there was another point as well. And I think I've played the longer video, but basically they were saying that the EU wasn't going to like them doing this coup, basically, because the EU didn't want that. And at one point she was basically saying, fuck the EU. She's literally like saying, fuck them. We're going to do this anyway. So I thought that was interesting, just to give you a little context. So at that time she was I think she still is in the same position, the Undersecretary of State. I think that's her position now, as you can see here. But I think that's what she was previously, or she worked in the State Department. Regardless, she worked in the State Department and had a high role in coordinating this stuff. So here's the video of Marco Rubio questioning her about this.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities. which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
So what I'm thinking is, now you saw how she had to think about it, right? Because I think she was about to say yes. I think yes, they do. But she knows she can't say that because that's illegal under international law. It's fucking illegal. You can't have biological weapons and be making them. Every country does it, though, illegally. Every country does it. Regardless of their reasonings, this, that, and the third, almost every country does it. And, it's illegal officially illegal under international fucking laws. So they can't outright admit to this. But the fact that they're so worried about, Russians doing it. And what did she say in there?
Russian forces should they approach.
You're afraid of this research that, if Russians get their hands on it, Russia, I'm pretty sure, does its own research on these type of things. And if they wanted to make these biological weapons very similar to what America's creating, they would want to do that. So is it actually weapons or is it research? And again, I think it's actually weapons. That's what I think it is.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians?
So you see how he frames the question? Let's rewind that back because he did a lot of boring lawyer talk there. Marco Rubio is very, very low energy, as Donald Trump would say.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
So they're basically taking what Russia's saying, like the very likelihood that Ukraine could use these biological weapons. Like, again, NATO has a history of, implementing biochemical weapons. This is actually a allegation that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea has accused them of during the Korean War. Where they killed 30% of the people on the Korean Peninsula. They killed 30% of the population on the Korean Peninsula during the Korean War with their mass carpet bombing. So, it's very interesting that he guides the question in that way. And you see how he throws in the American propaganda at the end, basically saying would it be without a doubt if there is a chemical weapons attack that it would be by Russians? And he basically guides her into the question.
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on.
She literally sounds and looks like Joseph McCarthy. Notice I said looks, but this is you see again. Let's peep this and see how he guides her into this question. It's utterly ridiculous. This would be called, what is it called? It's a certain legal term that they use when you're basically asking loaded questions to get a certain response or to lay up a certain response to somebody when you're interrogating them.
Groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
And again, I say this all the time on this channel, America, and not just America, the whole West, but especially fucking America, is a big fucking projection machine. Because again, you have the United States that went in and destroyed Iraq, that went in and destroyed Afghanistan, went in and destroyed Libya, but specifically Iraq under these, pretexts of weapons of mass destruction, right? That's the pretext they use for illegally invading Iraq. Now, let's say that what they're saying about Russia is true, that Russia's running propaganda, which I don't think they are. I think it's a very good likely chance. When you have depraved motherfuckers that are in the Ukrainian military, they're literally beating civilians right now. They don't give a fuck about civilians. I'm telling you that right now. They don't give a fuck about civilians. I wouldn't put it past them to use chemical weapons, is what I'm saying. But let's say that Russia is making that up. They're using it as propaganda. Isn't this the same fucking pretext the United States used to invade Iraq? This is fucking nuts. This is nuts. A big, and again, what she just said there is projection. This is a big fucking, America and the West are big projection machines. They're fucking, like, it's insanity, dude. It's insanity. So like I said, even if Putin and Russia were, making this up, which I don't think they are, I don't think they're out of their minds for thinking depraved, Nazi regimes or the depraved Nazi elements in the Ukrainians military and government wouldn't think about doing this. Historically, Nazis have done this, use chemical weapons. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched for them to say this. And the fact that, you have bioweapons facilities there is insanity. But let's continue seeing what Glenn had to say, because I always love Glenn's opinion. It's always rooted in the facts of the matter. That's why people really don't like him. That's why they resort to like ad hominem attacks, calling him a right winger, this, that, all nonsense. So really good, and he even explains it. Really good by Rubio interrupting Nuland's bizarre confession, which he did not expect, and immediately directing her to say that if there's a biological attack, it must be Russia. Exactly, he's leading the witness. I think that's what it's called, leading the witness, is what it's called in like court and shit like that. Why is he so concerned Russia would seize such a benign biological research facility? Because there's probably actually fucking weapons there. It's one of those odd yet revealing facts of Washington. Then under both Obama and now Biden, the person in charge of Ukraine policy at the State Department is a hardcore neocon from the royal neocon kingpin family, beloved by both parties. And this, I'm actually going to be covering this video later, so that's going to be awesome.
Wow.
Oh yeah, this too. And again, going on to the Nazi elements. Literally, they posted this. I'm gonna say that to her. I'm gonna say that to the end. I'm gonna say this to the end. This is amazing. That's amazing. I was actually looking for that before the show because I wanted to use it. Now I found it. I will talk about that later, towards the end of the show. But let's see. Is as corrupt? Exactly. Victoria Nuland is as corrupt as they come. Exactly. But coming back to me, it's very telling. It's very telling, bro. That's very telling. You see there, you have Marco Rubio basically, I believe that's what it's called in court, leading the witness. He's leading Victoria Nuland to push this American propaganda. They talk all the time about Russian disinformation, all that nonsense, and here they are doing it themselves. It's crazy to see. But now, give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up this Richard Medhurst video that I think is amazing. I really think it's amazing. Give me 1 second. Remember that Drake song? I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with this. It's been in my head all day. I'm sorry. Where is this drawn at? I just had it up. Boom. Here we go.
Forces in Ukraine and in...
Here we go.
Let me show you how to create an amazing ad using stock footage. Go to artgrid.io.
The founder of...
I'm going to get an ad blocker very soon. I'm going to be getting me an ad blocker very soon. All right, but let's go ahead and get into this next video, this video by Richard Medhurst. So, again, like I said, this is Richard Medhurst. He's going to be talking to this woman about, this journalist about the chemical weapons. And it's more revelation. So it's not just the fact that they have, weapons there, which she's about to get into. On the stream on Friday, because I literally just found this video like an hour or so before I was going to do the stream. So I'm probably going to be covering her work, her actual work, like her articles that she probably wrote on her websites and everything. Probably going to be covering it on Friday too. So look out for that. But I figured this would be perfect. Richard does a great job, sitting down with people, asking, the questions everybody wants to know. So I thought this would be a great resource to look at. Richard is amazing, man. I hope I have him on the show one day. I really want to have him on the show one day. But let's go ahead and get into this video.
Joining me now is Diliana Gaitenjeva, a Bulgarian investigative journalist and Middle East correspondent. She's also the founder of Arms Watch, which is an independent...
Actually, I'm gonna do full screen instead of having my face there. I'm gonna go full screen.
Independent investigative journalism platform that tracks weapons and documents war crimes. Diliana, it's my pleasure to welcome you on the program. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Diliana, you posted on Twitter that the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, they deleted from their website all these documents about 11 Pentagon-funded biolaboratories in Ukraine. You know, I've read your work, and I know you've covered this topic a lot. You've been on the ground reporting on it. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about these biolaboratories? What are they doing there?
The United States has funded at least 11 biolaboratories in Ukraine over the last years.
And again, I'm going to say again, this is not a far-fetched thing, because even within the lab leak theory, you know, the whole China lab leak theory, and I'm not saying that it's 100% false. I'm saying it could be true. But what I'm also saying is, if we really want to find out the origin of COVID, then actually investigate every avenue. Don't just pick the easy target that is China, because everybody hates China right now, and use it as a way, like, as propaganda, basically. That's basically what it is, what they're using it as right now. But even within that lab leak theory, you know, if it's too, you know, even if you believe it 100%, it's there that the United States government funded it. So again, this is not far-fetched. Anybody that's saying this is far-fetched are propagandists, honestly. They're propagandists, or they're willing, or they're dupes, honestly.
And in addition to these 11 biolaboratories, the Pentagon has contracted American private company to rebuild and equip 2 new biolaboratories in Ukraine's capital, Kiev, and in Odessa. And
that makes me wonder if Fauci was involved with this one too. Honestly, really makes me wonder if he was involved with this one too.
The end date of this contract is 2023. What is the purpose of the Pentagon funding such military program in Ukraine? Not only in Ukraine. The Pentagon has funded biolaboratories in 25 countries around the world, and the Pentagon has been operating such biolaboratories in 25 countries around the world. The sum that has been allocated so far is $2.5 billion. Why would the Pentagon spend, or the US government spend $2.5 billion on the health of foreign citizens instead of on the health of its own citizens? This is
because they're probably developing weapons there, not researching public health. That's more than likely why. That's my guess.
A question that makes no sense. I have been investigating this topic for a long time, and I received documents from insiders.
Oh my God! Sorry about this,
these
guys.
Documents.
It's another ad coming up. I'm sorry about that.
Let me show you how to create an amazing ad using stock footage.
Really
Go to artgrid.io.
Expose that, or reveal that the United States has performed biological experiments on allied forces in Ukraine and in Georgia.
So not only are they, funding, things like bioweapons and things like that in Ukraine, they're actually experimenting on soldiers with them. And again, historically, if you know anything about the United States, that's not a far-fetched thing. As a black man in America myself, I've been told all my life about the Tuskegee Experiment, which is why a lot of black people don't trust vaccines. So, and like I was saying, like this, like, and again, I'm going to be covering her work. I didn't get a chance to go through and read her stuff. But again, I trust Richard Medhurst having somebody credible on, as he always does when he has guests on. So, but this is insanity. If this were China doing shit like this, just imagine if this was China. So say we invaded Myanmar or something like that, which I could totally see us doing, or at the very least arming, the groups there to overthrow the current government that doesn't want NATO and Western influence in our country, but regardless, I digress. If we invade Myanmar and we find like a whole trove of Chinese bioweapons labs, the United States will be ready to go to fucking nuclear war with China over that. So you see the hypocrisy here and the overall projection. Like, do you see it clearer now from that video that I showed you of Victoria Nuland basically admitting to what she's saying right now? So they're calling it bio labs. You know, they're saying it was research, like regular research and shit like that. But clearly, if you're like she's saying right now, they're weapons. That's what Shorty's saying right now. They're weapons. They're not just, biolab research. They're developing weapons there.
The Republic of Georgia. In the documents about all these projects, it is written, all volunteer deaths will be promptly reported.
So, and there she has the documentation there. This is from the GG21 final report. And this is basically showing that they were doing the experimentation, as you see there. Unanticipated problems involving risk to volunteers or others and all volunteers and all volunteer deaths will be promptly, usually within 48 hours of the PI being notified, reported to the military hospital, IRB. Military Hospital of the Ministry of Defense of Georgia 56 Chev. I don't know how to say that. But yeah, so this is documentation that Richard is showing right now.
There is no information as to what military practices would be performed that would lead to such deaths. But it is clearly stated all volunteer deaths will be promptly reported. In addition to this, for me, very shocking information, insiders also leaked information about 248 death cases of people enrolled in one American program in Georgia. This was experimental treatment of people diagnosed with hepatitis C in Georgia. The leading
wow, that sounds very similar. Now I don't know if they told them that it was. So if you guys know anything about the Tuskegee Experiment, they basically were injecting people with the syphilis virus. They were injecting them with the virus and giving them the virus and shit like that, doing like deranged, like damn near like Mengele-esque experiments on these black men around the time. So, and they didn't have knowledge of it. So I wonder if these got it said volunteers, but we know they're fucking liars. So did these people actually volunteer, or did they not know what it was that they were being injected with? And I'm not saying they were injected with hepatitis C or anything like that. What I was describing with the Tuskegee Experiment was that these men were actually injected with, the syphilis virus and shit like that. So this is insane, man.
In this project was the Lugar Center, which is the Pentagon-funded biolaboratory in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi. According to these documents, the cause of death in the majority of cases is indicated as unknown. So all these facts raise the question, what is the Pentagon doing? And why have so many deaths been indicated in the documents as unknown? What is all this about? These biolaboratories, their aim is to research bioagents. These are bioagents which could be used as, if developed, could be used as biological weapons. And officially, the Pentagon says that this is the opposite. They research such bioagents in order to be well prepared in case of bio threats. This is the official.
And they weren't ready for COVID. If you believe that. You saw what happened with COVID. Obviously, this program isn't working. So either you guys are inefficient as fuck and you shouldn't be doing this, as our libertarian friends will say, government is very trash, which I agree with them in a lot of those regards. Or you guys weren't looking, to protect shit. You were looking to make weapons to use.
Explanation, but why isn't the Pentagon? Why is the Pentagon funding such project abroad, not on its own territory? Why in Ukraine? Why in Georgia? Why in Armenia or in Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan? All countries bordering on Russia. or also the United States has funded laboratories, the Pentagon in particular, around other Pentagon rivals, China and Iran. We have a clear pattern here. All these laboratories are located.
I wouldn't be surprised if they found the same thing in South Korea. Like I said, the DPRK historically has, alleged that the United States used bioweapons during the Korean War. Now, I'm saying alleged because, that's all we know so far. I believe that they did. Me personally, Bendu, am saying from what my own personal belief is that they did. Because I can believe our government, like I said, our government does fucked up shit. So, but this isn't like far-fetched. This isn't a far-fetched thing. People are, people that are saying this is, like I said, are either propagandists or they're fucking dupes. And like she said, all of the countries where these labs are surrounding enemies of the fucking United States.
Around.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was one in Myanmar as well.
The Pentagon main rivals, Russia, China, and Iran.
Yeah. I mean, that...
Iran too. I forgot about that. Iran too.
That's...
Like, was military, like, was weaponry, military, like guns and helicopters the only thing the Taliban found? Is that the only thing they found? It really begs that question now.
Speaks volumes on its own. It's quite shocking, and this is one of those stories where I was really intrigued by it, the level of detail also that you exposed, and of course this is something that I don't think we'll really hear on mainstream news. It's really I don't think it's an accident that, as you said, they're located right on the border of China, Russia, Iran. You don't need to be a genius to figure this one out. Really, really shocking stuff. And I also remember reading from your work that people living in the surrounding areas were also getting sick from this stuff.
Yes, I interviewed local people, and they told me about very scary details related to the existence of this biolaboratory, which was built inside the neighborhood where people live. Literally, the building of the laboratory, it is adjacent to the block of flats where people live. They also told me about death cases. I recorded their testimony, and it was quite shocking because when I asked the local authorities, they said there wasn't such cases, and locals, they told me that 2 Filipino workers inside the Luga Center, the Pentagon Biolaboratory, they died before their eyes. And the local people called the emergency services, but these Filipino workers...
Does sound familiar? It sounds very familiar.
Died without even being able to explain what happened to them. And everything was covered up. This happened not just once. These local people told me that it happened twice, that these American contractors, they are Filipinos, but they worked under a contract with the Pentagon inside the Luga Center. So they had simple symptoms of poisoning twice. The second time, 2 of them died. So nobody knows what caused their death. And when you ask the Georgian authorities about this case, they say there isn't such case. Everything is covered up, everything. Also, another interesting detail is that the Pentagon scientists working inside this Luga Center, they have been accorded diplomatic immunity to research deadly viruses, bacteria, and toxin.
So that's very funny, or it's not funny. It's very ironic, because that's basically, so there was a CIA official that killed a kid in England, I believe. She ran him over with her car. I forget what her name is. I'll probably look her name up after we watch the video. But she ran the kid over with her car and fled to UK. And they basically used the same thing, diplomatic immunity, so they didn't have to extradite her. So that's very ironic.
Why do they need diplomatic immunity in the first place? They are not diplomats. However, they have the immunity that actually gives them the right to move freely around the country, to do whatever they want, and to enjoy diplomatic immunity against prosecution. In addition, Ukraine and Georgia has signed an agreement with the United States, and in these agreements signed by both countries, there are provisions which gives legal protection to all US government employees, including these military scientists. They can do whatever they want, and the host states cannot start legal proceedings against these military scientists in case that they cause death or injuries to the local population. They are indemnified for fatalities and injuries caused to the local population.
Again, does that sound familiar? Obviously, it's not what we have going on here in the state. It's nothing like this, but that sounds very familiar to the legal shields that Congress gave companies like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and others that developed the vaccines. So this is what they do, man. This is corporatism at its finest. This is basically fascism, in my opinion, and it's the fucking United States doing it. It's not China. It's not Russia. It's not Iran. It's not Venezuela. Well, they're friendly with Venezuela now. This is the United fucking States. This is the State Department. This is the military-industrial complex as well.
Why is that text included in the agreements? If they were in Georgia and Ukraine and the other countries to help the local population, why can we see such provisions that they could potentially cause death and injuries to the local population? And it is written arising out of activities under this agreement. It is very indicative of what is going on.
Yeah, it's extremely shady. I know that every country has scientific attaches, but this is really it's very clear what's going on. It actually reminds me, I think in Iran, for example, under the Shah, they also had a law that prohibited the state from prosecuting American soldiers and officials. So again, complete immunity from prosecution. It's it's really indicative of how these countries serve as vassal states of the U.S. Because you would never see that. You would never see immunity from prosecution in the U.S. for Georgian officials, for example, right? Exactly. You would never see the other way around. It's only one way.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Diliana. Really great speaking with you, and I'm really happy that I finally got to have you on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
So that was what is this? What is this bullshit? Oh, that's a MIDI pack.
The MIDI pack.
Just MIDI pack.
Unbelievable.
This is my when I be like sometimes I'll be logged on to my different accounts, and I'll have my what is it called? I'll forget that I'm on a certain account when I'm searching, so a lot of my music stuff pops up on my American Autopsy one. But there you have it, folks. There you have it. The United States, was coordinating weapons research and experimentation in the Ukraine. Is what it looks like. That's insanity, man. And like I said, this isn't a far-fetched thing. If you really know the United States' history when it comes to bioweapons and experimentation on populations and things like that, it's fucking insanity, dude. It's fucking insanity. So, going to go ahead and close that segment out.